Hello guys, I'm back, Patrick from the Backyard Science Lab, and today I'm in Lockport, New York. And you may have seen all around the internet and almost everywhere people dyeing flowers by putting them in dyed water. And now I wanted to see and do some experiments with those and see exactly why that happens. And so I have a couple of Queen Anne's lace here. This is a flower which is good because it's nice and white, so it'll project these colors. And it's a weed, so that it grows very commonly, so that I have a lot for this. And so what I need to first do is fill all of these with water. Okay, so I have my test cups here. Now I have 6 cups and 4 dyes. I am using neon dyes to just see if it shows up better. And so I'm using blue, yellow, pink, and purple. These ones are. They look kind of the same, but they're pink and purple. And so what I'm going to do is try to test each one of these colors, so blue, yellow, pink, purple, and then use a base color like blue to see the amount. This one is going to be too little, this one's going to be too much. Now I'm going to use 8 drops for these 4. For each color. And then for this one, I'm going to use 2, and for this one, I'm going to use 20. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this blue. Okay, so here are our waters here. I know their water amounts aren't exactly the same, but I think it'll do fine for our experiment here. So this is going to take a couple of days. We're going to wait a couple of days to see how these pan out. I might do a time lapse for some of them, but we're going to wait a couple of days and then see why this is happening. Okay, so we're back. It is about 9:30 right now. We stopped last night at about 5:20, so it's been about 17 hours, and we have some pretty weird results. I'll start with these ones first, and you can see some of these over here. I'll try to center it. Some of these did really, really well and are falling out. Some are doing really, really well, like this one. But some other ones don't look as colorful, which I think is kind of weird. I think they still have a little bit of a blue tint. I'm not sure if you guys can really see them, but right at the tips, it's starting to get blue. I want to see if the stems are cut any differently. But yeah, this one has was cut kind of on a slant, which I'm not sure would make any difference, but it's kind of interesting. I can also see a tiny, I'm not sure if it shows up on camera, but I can see a tiny tint in the stems, in these little leaves. And so, moving on to our next color, which is this blue one. Or not this blue one, this yellow one. You can see that it's not a dark green. Well, I think it's interesting, this color. I think on the package, it's like a neon yellow, green. But yeah, it's interesting, this color. And so it's not very dark, but I think that's kind of the property of the dye, as the dye really isn't very dark. But yeah, this one's kind of the same as the other one. These ones are starting to come out on the edges here. The red, I can't really see any at all here, any color. Actually, this might be a pink, actually. This one, maybe this one, have a slight pink hue to them. But not much at all. This purple one, I think, has a little bit of color in it. Not an extreme amount, but a little bit of color. Reminds me a lot of a kind of a more of a grape color. These are also doing this dye very, very fast because I think of how short we had the stems. Other dyed flowers that you'll see could have huge stems, and so the water takes longer. I think these ones just have short stems. So you can see this was our amount experiments over here. And let me try to push these out of the way. But you can see this one we put 3 drops in. And now this one has maybe very, very slightly blue. Not as blue as these ones, or definitely not as blue as this one over here, which we'll look at. Okay, so this one we put 20 drops in. And now I see a lot of blue coming out on this one. I see a much darker blue here. You know, these actually look almost about the same, which is weird. I can try to compare these to you. Our darkest ones from our 2 blue batches. I'm not sure why they're different, even though we put different amounts of dye. They're different. That's kind of confusing. But I can see a lot of these are blue. Like every single one has a tint of blue. These ones, I might get some up-close shots of it later and put it in. But I can see just a little tiny bit of blue streaks in the actual flower part. But anyway, we'll try to look back tonight to see these flowers. Okay, so it's been 24 hours since we first put these in here. And from our last checkup, I can see a lot of changes just first off the bat. These pinks are starting to get a little hue of pink. Not sure how it's showing up in the video, but they're starting to get a little bit pink here. Not as much as the other colors, which I think I expected since of how light that color was. The purple, I'm surprised, isn't darker, as you can actually see that dye is very, very dark. It's almost as dark as this blue, so I thought it would kind of work the same and show up better, but it's still going good with a light hue of purple to all of these. It's just kind of huming instead of, if that's a word, instead of like this blue over here, which I could actually see coming in streaks and then coming out in full. It's kind of awkward here. Yeah, I could kind of see it coming out in streaks first and then it becoming full blue. The purple and the pink I just kind of see coming in hues. This yellow, again, is a lighter, or this green is again a lighter color, but I think it's still coming in. One thing that's interesting is if you can see this flower, before I take it out and show you guys, it's this side down, and it's this colored side down, which is interesting how it's kind of half colored here, how the top's still white, but the bottom is still yellowish. Maybe it fell in and got dyed. That's interesting. I don't see anything really else interesting other than what I expected. I can just kind of check up on these here. You can see our light one is still a very light blue here. Not much has happened to it. It's a lot like this at its 17-hour stage, which is kind of interesting. A lot of these are at a low blue. And with this really dark blue, I think it's looking the best. It's kind of interesting how this one still is very, very blue. But all of these are pretty much blued around the same color, which is good. This one's definitely blue the most. And yeah, this one's coming in streaks. But yeah, I think kind of pretty good here. So we'll check in another 17 hours and see how they are. So it's been about 18 hours since our last clip, and I can see a little bit of difference from the last time. Not much, but you can see that some of these blues have become a little bit darker. This yellow has become a little bit more vibrant here. This green has become a little bit more vibrant. I think this one has changed the most. Or this purple. This purple is starting to poof up with a lot of purple here. But yeah, I don't see too much change here, and I'll be back at the 48-hour mark. Okay, so we're at the 48-hour mark, and I originally planned this to be a 2-day experiment, and I can see a lot of results upon this. The purple is becoming very purple, the pink is becoming a little bit pink, the blue is by far seems to be showing up the best for some reason. and the green is becoming green. And like here, we can see that the 3 drops really weren't enough for these flowers. And while I think they've soaked up a lot of that blue water, what I think happened is you can see all that blue water. And now it looks very blue because of the size of it. Now if you were able to thin that down, there would be less blue dye in that area, and so it would not be as blue. And I think that's what's happening in these flowers. This really dark blue, contrary, is very much darker blue up here. Now, I think that if we left these for a couple of days, they would become a lot more colorful. But there were a couple things I wanted to try. And now, what I did want to do is, I wondered how dark that these could get. So, we have just about 1 day left that we can expend on this experiment. And so, what I want to try to do is get these 3 colors. The pink, the yellow, and the dark blue. The green and the dark blue. Because what I want to try is adding a lot of blue. So let's say, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that is twice as much dye in that one. So I'm not sure if it's going to get as colorful as it did in 2 days. If it goes 1 day with twice as much dye, I'm not too sure. And then I'm going to use the pink here and try to make this one really, really pink. I want to see if I can get a really, really pink flower. So I might add, I don't know, maybe like, if I had that at 8, maybe like 12 to get it to 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. Okay, so 21. Okay. You know, I'm going to add a couple more to that. Let's get it up to 30. 2, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, so it's up to 30. Hopefully we get some cool colors with that. And then this yellow. Now, I'm not sure the exact contents. This green. Keep saying yellow. It's green. I'm not sure the exact contents of this, but I know that in a lot of fluorescent things, or a lot of neon things, they can become like fluorescent, where they can almost glow. And so yellow is usually the best thing for that. That's why they make highlighters yellow. That's just because it glows the best. And so I'm going to try to get these really, really neon yellow, so that they pop. So what I'm going to do is maybe get this one up to, I don't know, 30. So So it's 30. It's actually looking really dark green right now, but I wonder how that's going to come up into the flowers. So this might not be exactly mixed here. I'm sure it will dissipate throughout the cups. And so I want to see how these work, because they all have a lot of dye in them. So I'm not sure if they're going to kind of explode with color, or if it's going to be too much. And they're really just going to stay about the same. I'm not too sure. But anyway, I'll see you in maybe another 17 hours. Okay, so I'm back. It's been 17 hours since the last clip. And with our old ones, I can see a little bit of color, more color here. But that's not what I'm worried about. What I am testing right now is these 3. And now I see a lot more from the pink. Not a ridiculous amount like the blue was on the first day, but I do see a lot of pink there. Although a lot of that was from yesterday. I see a lot more yellow. I haven't looked at the pictures from yesterday recently, but this looks a lot more yellow, and this blue looks a lot more blue. Now, one thing I found that was interesting, if you can see this, all of this, I guess it's pollen here on the table, if you can see it, is the dyed color. You can see that some of this here is actually a whitish yellow. Some of this is, of course, very blue. I can see some pinks and definitely some bright yellows over here. But yeah, that's kind of interesting how so much is dyed. I can also see the stems being dyed a lot. Like, take this one. You can see that a lot of that's from the blue coloring, actually. But even some of these little leaves on the side here are starting to become blue dyed, which I think is interesting. But I don't know. We'll see and check up on this at the 72-hour mark. Okay, so we're back at the 72-hour mark from the start of our experiment and the 24-hour mark from this new version. And so just kind of wanted to look at the end of this experiment before we throw them away. Oh, apparently this pink fell out. Interesting. These original ones. So this is the light blue after 3 days. It looks pretty good, although this is kind of not our original experiment anymore. We've changed up some of them. But it's still looking surprisingly good for a light blue. And it does look like a light blue. This medium bluish thing worked pretty well. It's actually interesting comparing it to our really dark one. I think really doesn't look that much different, which is kind of weird. I think this one does look darker, this other one, but it's still weird. This purple one, I don't think it ever became a solid purple dark, which is interesting, but it became a weird purple, I guess, neon, like it's supposed to be color. So now looking at the kind of more experiment we did for this last day, this deep blue is doing a lot, very well. I think this is probably more what I would use if I was trying to dye these, because even this darkish one and this lightish one both look pretty good. This darkish one is pretty dark, but it's still that nice shade of blue. Then this pink one, looking pretty good. It's changed a lot after that 24-hour mark where we added more dye into it. And this yellow one is looking pretty good. Green is looking pretty good after we put more in it. It's actually become a very neon color, which is kind of weird for flowers. I thought they would kind of dull a little bit from it, but it definitely is a bright green. Okay, so the question after this experiment is, why does this work? And now we've seen that the lighter colors produce lighter colors, and the darker amount of dye produces darker colors. And now we even saw that after a amount of time, it went faster, or it grew darker, and not just more color, but also darker. And so why does this happen? Well, when these were in the wild, growing in their dirt, they were sucking up water. And how they were doing that was through their roots, or what now is their stem. They would have water in them. They would have water all the way up from the bottom of the root, up to the stem, and to wherever it evaporated from. So in the process of photosynthesis, that water would evaporate. And now when that water evaporated, because of the surface tension of water, it would form a chain of water all the way from there, all the way down to the bottom of the root, and would pull one more atom or molecule of water up towards the top. And so when each one so this would keep pulling a chain up and would keep pulling this new water in. So when we introduce it to a different kind of water, like this dye sticks to liquids, especially water, very, very well. And so because it isn't the best filtering system in this stem or roots, it can suck up that blue water. And now the blue doesn't necessarily evaporate. So what it does is it stays in this flower here, and we can see the consequences of all that blue there that stayed in it. And if you've ever had a dyed flower, you can see that that blue stays in even if you add clear water to it, because it's kind of stuck in this, the middle of this flower. And so because of how that works, you can see how the blue comes in ways of, in this case, the blue, where it comes full in certain areas, but will still be white in others. And so if you've ever seen a multi-dyed flower, this also works because while it's more prominent in roses, which have a big petal, how these work is you can see from kind of stripes in the center, they would have one color. And so if you had a multi-dyed, you could have a blue like this, then introduce it to a light blue like this, then introduce it to another color, like say black. And that would start in those little strands as some of these lighter colors did, and would overlap into that multicolored thing there. And now you can see that, if you've ever had a dyed flower, of course, that these stay in the flower really well. And you can see the color well because in the flower. And so you can see that if I were to dip it in it, it doesn't stay to the outside as well. And that's because it's in the flower and has a nice color all around. So that's why this explains a lot. This is how it took a while for all of this dye to get into the flower, because of how long it took for that to get into the stem. And you can also see that where a little bit of water might have evaporated or just some of the dye might have been left behind, other parts of the flower are also dyed. But okay guys, this was a cool experiment. But anyway, I'll see you in the next video. So guys, it was awesome doing this in New York. It's about 2 months later. If you couldn't tell, this was filmed in the summer. Not sure when this is going out. Although it was pretty cool doing this video and especially these 2 videos here in New York. Those being my video about Pop Rocks, which I posted about 2 or 3 weeks ago when I'm recording this. And yeah, of course this one. This was a different video. It was pretty cool doing a long-term video where I could come back and see these cool results. I've seen this thing around often, but I've never actually done it. But guys, if you like this, remember to subscribe and like this video. I have a lot of cool videos coming out. Recently, or actually probably a while ago, I got my Action Lab subscription box. I'm pretty late on video, and it's pretty busy in the summertime. Although, yeah, I am off to recording that actually right now. And yeah, sneak peek, that is about a liquid that has such a high surface tension that it basically pours itself. But anyway guys, remember to subscribe, like, and turn that notification bell on. I've heard that some of you have not been getting my video notifications, which could either be YouTube messing up, and it's probably YouTube messing up. But anyway, bye guys.